it back and we'll get started.
But I mean, in terms of
Rising with me.
All right, well, we will call this special called session of the Robertson County Board of Education to order. Thank y'all for being here. I just want to tell the board I appreciate everybody's work. Our meetings tend to go a lot faster than the deliberation it takes to get to the votes we have here, and I just want everybody to know that a whole lot of individual work and questions to Ms. Sheila and Dr. Weeks went on behind the scenes to get us to this point, and I just want to say I appreciate each one of y'all for doing that. It's a big deal every year, and y'all do a great job. So we'll start with review for funding for capital outlay projects.
board members, wanted to just kind of update you, and I've asked Ms. Kleiner to be here prepared for that. I think I sent you a text the evening that happened, but essentially our plan for the first $5.5 million has gone through, and so that process is going to take place, and we'll be able to have those funds available to us on the IA renovations as we had talked about. The west side additions and the other total project of about $14 million has passed through Budget Commission, excuse me, Budget Committee and County Commission. It is going to be the county has decided to transfer that money from a debt service fund over to a debt service school fund rather than going out on the bond market, because actually they had that money in their fund balance. So they're going to transfer that money to us. That required action of the County Commission. That did take place last week when we were having graduations. And so it's going to take a letter from our county funding body to the state comptroller's office. The comptroller is going to have to authorize that transfer of funds, and then those funds would be moved in. They anticipated, was it 2 weeks, Ms. Kleiner? It was about a 2-week period of time to get through the state and then back to the county before those funds would actually be moved into our fund. That's going to be a 171 fund. So anything I missed on that? I know I'd put your name down beside there.
That's 2 weeks after it's done and gets to the comptroller's office.
Right.
Once she gets that letter back, she'll transfer that money over to us, and we'll be able to start sending the others.
Okay.
That 5.5 that taken from our fund balance is the exact year amount.
Okay.
That is not which was, if there's any change orders or anything, that's the exact year amount that it is.
Okay.
So I think both of those are important, that we know that the $5.5 million is the bid. And so we have, again, talked to construction companies, and, you know, there is no contingency fund. There's no, oops, we forgot to draw that, or we forgot to find that, or something like that. So that $5.5 million has been transferred over. We're thankful for the County Commission to allow us to use that. from our own fund balance. So that was both of these went very positively through budget management committee, and through the county commission. So we're glad to see that. The part that is important for you to know next, and again, looking at the prioritized list that we gave you, is on the back of our sheets that we had looked at when we asked for the $14 million. And again, what I've done is expanded that column a little bit. And as we put in, we asked for $14.5 million based on the estimates that we had been given at the time. And so I think Mr. Sarles has some information that he'd like to share with you. As you can imagine, you see some of those numbers were quotes and estimates and things like that on there. For instance, the Woodall HVAC was an estimate of $4 million. So Mr. Sarles, I think, has some information that we received on some actual numbers. We're not asking for approval on those bids tonight, but we do need to talk about prioritizing a list. Mr. Charles, I know you had copied or you made a document for the board for them to review. Would you mind going over that with us now, please, sir?
We were going to fill in some information to go with it, but by the board in December, you asked and directed that Trains do an assessment of the Woodall HVAC unit. Reminder, the building is 30-plus years old, and this is original to the construction of the facility. You're also aware that there's been several issues over the years with that current system. So we had an opportunity, Mr. Finch and Mr. Corbin and myself met with Train officials on last Thursday, and they presented their turnkey proposal. There's several pieces to it, and there's those add-ons, if you will, that we could also consider to go with that. But they began with their base price. The base price includes replacing and installing barred units in all 34 classrooms that are there, so they would have their own separate unit. And then on top of that, there are 20 rooftop units that would be used to service larger areas inside the building, such as hallways, cafeteria, gyms, library, things of that nature. 34 classroom barred units, 20 rooftop units, and then their assessment also includes various mini splits and heaters throughout the building as needed, just to make sure they've got adequate supply there for that. And then a complete building automation system would be included. But that base price is $4,626,048. $4,626,048.19. So 4,626,048.19. Did you get that?
Gotta get that 19 cents.
19 cents.
I got you the first time.
All right.
So let me stop you right there, Mr. Charles. So we had estimated $4 million on that. So that bid, just the base bid alone, has come in $600,000 over what they had originally estimated for us.
Then
Plus.
the several add-ons that go with that. One includes the office area. I'm not sure why the office area would not be included in the base price, but to take that office suite to remove and install a new system there would be an additional $306,395.64. So $306,395.64. Then when you go back into each one of the classrooms, so again, 34 barred units in the classroom, they would also look to add on ductwork, which would go up and over the ceiling tile with 3 to 4 diffusers in each classroom. Adding the ductwork to those 34 barred units would be $304,543.66. $304,543.66. Now, Mr. Corbin, we do have barred units throughout the district that are standalone and operate that way. We've got some other barred units that do have the ductwork included. There's some efficiency that might be a part of that, but I understand that the major advantage of having the ductwork is it does reduce the noise in the classroom. But that would be an add-on there. Finally, the other add-on would include replacing all ceiling tiles. Now, whatever the base price would include, if they come in and have to tear out grid or ceiling, they're gonna replace that. But due to over the years, the humidity and moisture damaged all the ceiling tiles, they suggest making a replacement of those. To replace all ceiling tiles that's not included in the base price, $247,425.45, $247,425.45. The final piece of it, and this was not a quote, but they did give us a number. They've not finished all their internal review and approvals internally before they can release it. But again, it's more than 30 years old. It also has the original roof on it. Mr. Corbin is the last one that we have that still has the ballast or the gravel roof, and it's one of the older roofs that we have in the district. 20 rooftop units means there's 20 penetrations at least that are going through the roof. To replace the roof, and by the way, they currently assessed it at an R10 value as far as energy efficiency. Codes would want to raise that to an R25 value. Remove the ballast, install a white membrane roof over the whole complex, the whole facility. And again, this is not an exact quote, but the number provided at this point is $2,079,729. So $2,079,729. So pretty broad range of work and things that can be provided. Again, from Train, these are turnkey proposals, so we would anticipate that what they're providing would get it all completed and done and handed over to us with the training that might be necessary to go with it. So, Dr. Weeks, that includes the Woodall project that we have. I don't know if you've got other questions on that or you need other information.
Yeah, let's hang on right there. So we had estimated $4 million out of the $14 million that we had asked from the County Commission to take care of the Woodall project. So it came in at 4.6, which is already overbid, over what we had estimated. And then the $306,000 to do the office project, the $304 to do the ductwork, which again, I don't know that is necessary, but you know, they said that if we've got barred units in other places and in the system, I don't know that that's necessary, but.
For some clarification, the office is included in the base bid. It's a conventional system. The 306. That's an alternate for a VRF system, which is a VRV drive. It's a whole different kind of system.
Right.
Basically gives you zone control over every single office. What they have now is a conventional system. It is not. You have a couple thermostats over here that control more than one area. So that 306 is an alternate to do a VRV. I don't necessarily think that that's a.
So the office isn't going to just be left out here, like, okay,
Just out of the
conventional
zones.
air handler system.
okay.
The ducted alternate is for coming in, you're basically lowering ceilings, you're putting in ductwork off the unit instead of just the one big direct shot coming from the unit. We have both of those throughout. They both function very similar. They're both kind of cool to room. The noise difference is noticeable, but I'd say minimal. So that again, that's another alternate that we could consider, not necessarily perfectly viable for what we're trying to do. And then, of course, the ceiling.
Besides noise, is there another advantage to that?
It distributes air just a little bit better because you have multiple registers in ceiling rather than just one large register at the back of the room.
So Clint, for the people that are not familiar with the barred unit, can you just describe it? I know it's like it's the tall unit that's.
It's about 4 foot wide. It's
Right.
the full height of the room. It's
Right.
just basically looks like a big box on the wall with a large vent at the top and one lower that takes in return air, just like the unit at your house. Return air comes in, it spits it out, spits it out the top for it.
So it's doing that, and that's the base bid as opposed to the $300,000 alternate is to make something similar to this.
Is there any, again, I mean, as far as distributed, is there any efficiency benefit to it, like from our utility bill standpoint? I mean,
No, not necessarily, no. Like I said, it's just, you're getting it. You go in, Crestview, for instance, all their classrooms have the direct dump units. You go in,
far as the ceiling goes, I mean, I'm in that building fairly often, and there are tiles that are definitely clearly,
Every tile in that building.
Every one of them.
needs to be replaced.
is there a, I mean, I know you guys have your hands full completely, but I mean, is there more to popping out ceiling tiles and popping them back in than I am aware of? And the only reason I ask, I mean, if we know, is that something that can be handled by us internally rather than having Train come and do it?
No, I mean, you're talking 75,000 square feet of ceiling tile.
Is that just be a timing thing? They can get in and get it done, be out of the way?
The cost that they're gonna pay as a contractor paying for the tiles versus what we can give them for is gonna be less, and then the manpower to do it, yeah, I mean, that's probably a 3-week job with 5 or 6 man crew doing nothing but changing tiles. So, we're not necessarily set up to go in and do a major overhaul in-house.
Gotcha.
So Clint, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but your recommendations, go with the base, go with the tile replacement, and not accept the office zoning and not accept the ductwork.
That would be my,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But you've still got the roof too, no matter what, don't you?
Not necessarily at this time,
Okay,
yeah.
The roof, like, I think it needs done, but
But it
we're not
wasn't-
do it right now.
It wasn't on our schedule to do right now, and that's, again, when you start looking at the $14.5 million that the county has given us,
yeah,
that was not a part of what we approached the
Right.
county with, so it was not a part of our request. Now, again, if this board reprioritizes, I think at least we owe that statement back to the county commission, because, we didn't have an ABC list, but we said, these were a list of things that we anticipated doing, and we did explain, we don't know what this will cost, we don't have a full estimate on everything, so, if we go from what we'd estimated at 4
4
million,
million.
goes from now to 4.6, now to another 250 that, so that's 4.9, you might as well say $5 million just for the Woodall project. And so really that's part of where, I was looking for you to give us direction, because that's going to be an essential part of, I don't think we have to take all these in a 1, 2, 3, 4 order, but, some of the things we need to get going to get as much of it done over the summer as we possibly can.
Is
So,
this a project that can be done over the summer? If we were, and I guess, are we beholden to Train since they put all this together? They've got to be the ones that do it, or does it
we
be like
have-
another project?
we made some commitments to Train, since they're the ones that were our energy management company, and again, those were decisions made before we got here. I think we had to either pay them a design fee and all that was put in this, or we would owe them some fees for doing that. So I'd recommend we stick with Train because of that and to be consistent.
What would their time frame be?
My understanding, they needed a commitment from us by August 1st in order to order all of the things that they need so that they can start work during spring break.
Lead time on delivery was, how many months?
16 weeks on units.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it would be.
That's gotten better than it used to.
Yeah.
well, good.
Most likely the swap over, because of what they're doing with the heat and air, would not happen until they get to spring break, so you really wouldn't see significant work. They could do some interior conduit and things like that, but the swap over wouldn't happen until spring break.
Gotcha.
It's a year-long project from the time of green light notice to proceed to open back up. So we're looking at end of next summer before everything is operational, which means we're taking this system to another cooling and heating season. We're prepared for that, but we've been dealing with it for a long time now, so. But yes, it does have a year-long duration.
Gotcha.
So tonight, again, I'm not asking for you to approve any bids tonight on this project, but I would like you to at least know where we are, and then at our June meeting, a couple of weeks, be prepared to say, yes, we want base bid plus 1 option, base bid plus 2 options, base bid plus 3 of those, so that we could accept that. Then that needs to go through county finance and everything is appropriate there. The other projects that you see on there, the $35,000 that's a solid quote. If we choose to do that, that one's fine. The IA parking lot overages is a solid quote, and that one's fine to do. The CES HVAC has not been bid. They're working on that right now. I'm worried about that number, obviously, since we were $600,000 short on the other one. I don't know where that one will come back. CES ball field, we've had conversations about that. We have talked to, and we've had conversations in this room and at one of our planning sessions about the CES ball field, and would we be able to move that onto our property at Coopertown Middle School? Well, I should say that both of those are our properties. To move that onto Coopertown Middle School's property so that the school there at Coopertown Middle would receive the benefit of the construction. So we have an estimate and a quote from Five Star Construction that's in the $350,000 range to move that from across the street at Coopertown Elementary onto Coopertown Middle's property. So,
So it's basically the original bid plus 350,000?
the 1014-167 that you see over in the left column plus 350, Mr. Charles, Clint, was that a quote? Was that an estimate? I mean, that,
That is a very budget estimate based on what they came out and shot grades for, elevations for. They did put in some legwork. We'll have a much closer number as, basically, as when we come out and did that, they're putting a number together on that. That is strictly based on site visit, looking at it, putting some numbers together from historical data and putting that together. So at 350 is probably a really good number. I think we had said 300 in the beginning, so it's probably right in that ballpark.
Somewhere around 3 is what we're, I mean, obviously, it could be 250, 350, right? It's going, you know,
Close to 200,000 in the dirt itself.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Plus some other things to make the site accessible.
Well, for me personally, making it available to our students is worth that. You know, if we put the field at Coopertown Elementary, it's strictly a Little League field. Whereas if we put it at Coopertown Middle, now it's a field our students, athletes can use, and Little League can use at night, so.
Yeah, I agree. I want to go back and make a correction. I think the bid was 800 and something. I think we only approved
Part of it,
all the way up to the last phase. The last phase was
Right.
the 1 million, and we didn't approve that. We went all the way up to that last, I don't have it in front of me,
876.
8 something.
Yeah.
So, not that it feels much better than $1 million when you're at 8
Yeah.
something. We
Well,
got to
yeah.
spend another 300,000 on the site work, but I think,
You're right.
you know, you may be somewhere around 1.2 all in versus 1.3 plus.
so we may
Yeah.
have this ready to bid on, to vote on in June?
We should have something more definite than just what we're doing.
All right.
It'd be on a piece of paper, but like I said, without fully engineered drawings, I mean, you can't
Yeah.
get to the penny, so that's just something to consider.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think, like Steve, I mean, you know, 3 years ago, when we tore it out, we were sure thinking a whole lot different, but everything's different. And
Right.
But I think the most advantage is the middle school where the kids, our students will have access to it. And then also it opens up, you'd have 3 fields on one campus for the community folks that would have access to what they used to have 2 fields.
Right.
So I think once we get those numbers, we'll just have to look, and then obviously that million, I think we'll put that actual number in there, 800 and
Yes.
something thousand. At least that makes you feel a little bit better.
The Joe Burns gym floor, again, that's at the middle school, the old gyms, whatever we call it. We had a quote from November at 41,000, the Springfield High Auxiliary Gym at 64,000. We've put some estimates in there on some elementary school floors. Those are not required. Those will be required at some point in time, but we just put them on the list for your consideration at that point in time. Of course, the other things on there, the land purchases, the soffits at Greenbrier Elementary, and school parking lots, school signs, we've not gone that far because, again, if our $14.5 million leaves us some dollars for those, we're going to go on and move on down through that list. But just wanted you to see these numbers up front, to make sure you feel comfortable with those numbers. And again, on our June meeting, if we do have, the Woodall bids would be something I would ask you to approve at the June meeting. And then if we can get the solid bid on the transition, the civil site work at Coopertown Middle for the ball fields there. I don't know that, again, the IA parking lot, I think we've made that commitment, and we know that's part of a project that's ongoing. So, if we have the green light to go ahead and do these projects as they come up, and then, we'll take into consideration where we are from a money-wise and money spending plan as the rest of these projects come available.
So I want to make sure I understand, so the 14 they approved,
Yes, sir.
right?
The
But isn't there
14.5.
Isn't there additional 5?
5 is completely for IA. 5.52, the number at the very top of your page there. 5.52 is all of IA.
Okay, so this bottom figure at the very bottom
The
of 14.5
14.593,
is,
that's what we have to spend on all of these projects.
so we don't have an additional 5 million to spend. I was thinking they did the 14 plus another 5.
5's up at the top for IA.
Okay. Okay, that's what
So we have a
I think
total,
we're saying the same thing.
probably,
Yeah, probably. We got a total of 19
yes.
on everything that's on this page. Okay, that's what
Yes.
I'm, yeah.
I was wondering that as well.
Yeah, because you had 14 here, and I kept going, well, the first 2 projects added to 14.
Sorry.
And then, okay, so
Yes,
we
sir.
really, the 2 projects we're committed to, obviously, are IA, we've already done that, and West Side, we've done that. And the finishing the parking lot of 100,000, that's nothing. So I don't want to say it's not nothing, but,
Yes,
so the 5 million is where we're trying to decide what to do, the Woodall, the ball field, and these other projects. Okay. Now, Woodall, the only thing, so we're gonna, I understand the train relationship, but I guess if I'm spending taxpayer money of $4 million some dollars, are we not gonna get any other bids? I mean, is that what I'm kind of hearing? The Woodall project, the heating and air unit.
We come under the purchasing cooperative with.
with the train.
Okay. I mean, I haven't been through that process where we spend $4 million without having any other bids. That's the reason I'm asking that question.
We go through them with our Omnia for a lot of things. They take care of it pretty well.
Oh, I'm not saying they're not, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying there's anything bad, I'm just going,
I think it's not a mix and match situation. You're having the same stuff in all your schools, migrating toward that. Is that what it's?
That'd be ideal from a maintenance standpoint, yes, but with this one, we're on train controls, we are under the energy management program with them, which also carries with it the purchasing cooperative, the shift can correct me if I'm wrong. But it keeps us from having to go out and bid it out, lengthen the process, which we've already been working with for years. And kind of gets us going, gets us ordered, gets equipment on the way, and gets us in sooner rather than later.
So the train energy management program was something that was started here. I know it was here when we came. Sheila, do you have a background on that? Just
Well, and them, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the fact that we're able to do it without bids means they've gone to the state and presented like,
Yeah, with cooperative.
basically they've already shown lowest prices to the state. So the state says to us, you can use them because they've already shown us, like when you buy a truck off state contract, you don't have to go get bids.
When we did that is the parts and the units and all that are on that cooperative purchasing agreement. And we go in and they prove to us that they are have that.
Yeah.
And send it to us, somebody from Owen, from their
Yeah.
company comes in.
Is there county government on that as well?
Yes. Yes, we started this process, like I said, long before I got here. I want to say the first, right after the train agreement actually came on board, they went into Woodall, did some initial pricing, did some initial drawings. So we've actually looked at this 3 or 4 times. It's gotten older, the units have gotten older. But yeah, this project's been reviewed and priced multiple times.
so that makes sense. the cooperative program. So if I have a,
They've been involved in all levels of that even in previous years, we just weren't able to get that project going.
just like we do on bus and stuff, but like the roof and the tile work and all that extra work, that's not part of that cooperative that we could be talking about in the
This
future.
turnkey proposal, it would be, yes. They're assuming responsibility for that. The roof could be included in this, but it's, so yes, everything goes through train. They are, for all intents and purposes, the GC for this project. So everything would go through them, including the ceiling tile and
But we could do the roof 2 years later.
Right. Because we don't have any money for the
Right,
roof.
and then therefore we could bid the
Sure.
roofing project at $2 million something
Yes,
dollars.
It wouldn't have to be part of this.
Because there's not a cooperative agreement, that's what I was, yeah, okay.
Right.
Okay.
So
There are
how,
roofers only on the purchasing agreement. We could go that route, but we
Right.
don't necessarily have to, yes.
Yeah.
so how will it work as far as with the, I know they've given bids, if you want to call it, or showing you different ways for that office addition and that, the ductwork. So, I mean, is that something that, and I'm just asking, I don't know, is that something that will be a board decision or?
Yes, ma'am, that's what I was saying is at our June meeting, I would ask that you would approve the base bid of $4.62 million on the base bid, and then hearing the discussion about the ceiling tiles, the roughly $250,000 on the ceiling tiles, and that we not accept the other alternate bids.
Good, okay.
So that would be,
And if y'all want to look into it, and if somebody on the board wants to say, I really want to do the ductwork, we'll talk about that.
Sure.
But that's Dr. Weeks' recommendation is the base bid plus the ceiling, plus the tiles.
Good.
so that Ms. White, we'll do that at our June meeting would be my recommendation there. And then the other projects, again, we'll take those, once the dollars are transferred from the comptroller's office through the county back to us, we'll just go ahead and start, the IA parking lot, I think would be the first thing that we'd probably just go ahead and tell them proceed with that, then we'll start working on that. And then, see where we are as dollars come, as dollars become available. We're certainly not going to overcommit any dollars that are out there, and we'll continue to stress to our existing vendors, we can't have change orders. We can't have a lot of unnecessary change orders and things like that. So we'll talk to them about those things. But that's where we are on that. We probably should have done budget before we got into that document. We could rearrange the agenda items for that.
Are you going away from that document?
Do anything you'd like
But
to do.
there's just one thing, and this is, I know it's not your fault, but I've been seeing GBHS cleaning tires for how long now?
It's done, I mean.
Is it done now?
No, Joe Burns.
Joe Burns.
Joe Burns.
Joe Warren's has done this already.
Okay.
It's just still on here, but
It's on here.
praise the Lord, praise the Lord, it's done.
It's running, it's actually putting out the coldest water.
Thank you. I know that's been a long way.
That one was, I was glad to see that.
I'm trying to take things off of that document as we don't need them. And
Yes.
so there's where we are on that. So that gets us to our 5:50 topic, and we're not too much behind on schedule. The approval of the 24-25 fiscal year budgets and all funds. So I know Ms. Beverly sent the document to you again for your review. We shared some information today. There were some questions this morning about, I think this changed $1 or $2 here, this changed $1 or $2 there. But from what you see presented at the 5:13 meeting is what you have both in your shared drive and what you have. If you need a hard copy of that, I do have that for you this evening. But again, in summary, the revenues that we looked at, we've tightened the number here to, I don't think we should make any changes to revenues at all. And so our revenues, for our proposed revenues for the 24-25 budget would be $136,508,210, 136,508,210, and we see our expenditures again, the changes we made, we firmed up the numbers. You had asked us to go back and put the pre-K program. We've lost a pre-K teacher from the state, and at your last meeting, you'd asked that we put that back into the program, and we did that. And then there were a couple of numbers that were finalized from preparation for audit, that you see on what I have on page 30, 141,042,351. So again, that gives us a projected on paper deficit of $4.5 million. We've had conversations with County Finance Committee, County Finance Director, and again, just historically, on paper, we have been very conservative in our budgets of revenues. In my conversations again with Ms. Jody, she says that, we are very conservatively budgeting. We're budgeting based on a 5-year average of revenues, so we're budgeting really based on revenues that we received in 19 and 20. So I know this is my first budget I presented in Robertson County, but I don't have any doubt that we will far exceed that $4.5 million and actually come out to the positive. That's been our trend for, I think we'd look back as far as 8 years on that, Ms. Sheila, and only 1 year in those 8 years did we not overcome what we had projected by at least $4 or $5 million. So I have no doubt that we'll be to the good, probably $4.5 to $5 million again at the end of the next budget cycle. But we've done a fund balance analysis, and again, we feel very comfortable with that even after the transitions for our projects, even after the transitions for that, and in worst case, if we use that 4.5, I still think we'll be in the $15 to $16 million fund balance. So, board members, I know you've had time to review the budget. We've been over that, I guess we spent 3 months on that now, or at least 2.5, and you've looked through that very comfortably. So I would present that to you in its final form. If you approve that tonight, we are set to present our budget on June the 11th to the County Finance Committee. Again, they've kind of previewed some numbers, and I've had pretty positive impact so far, pretty positive feedback so far.
All right, board members, I like the way you said that we've actually got a budget surplus if you give us a few months.
Yes.
So like it starts out like this, but what was it, usually January, Ms. Sheila? We broke even by January, even starting out with the deficit usually, so that's good news.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. I caught you talking. Board members, we'll open the approval of our 24-25 fiscal year budget up for discussion. Does anybody have anything?
So I know what the fund balance will be. We're anticipating it based on, we're going to use some of that for these projects. We're going to be around 15 million.
Yes.
So after this school year, do we have a projection of what we're going to, when we budget this school year, where we're going to end up? How much more we're going to contribute to the fund balance?
$1.8 million. Now, that doesn't include the zero meeting, those are estimated numbers, that's what I'm saying.
So somewhere around 2 million, we're going to have left, and I don't use the word left, but we'll contribute to the fund balance, which goes to your point of, right now we're showing a $4.5 million deficit. Well, last year it was I don't remember exactly what it was. What? Yeah. And we're going to end up roughly with 2 million to the positive, so, okay.
Yep.
And the budget we're operating on now is extremely tight, so
Yeah.
we made it with the 1 million, just over.
Considering the dollars involved, pretty good.
I always go back and, being a mathematician myself, I'm always concerned about that, but then I keep coming back and saying, well, the budget is a plan. And so this is our plan, and we plan very conservatively on revenues. We plan, I know we've had conversations about last year's budget. I know there was some nervousness in approving that budget, and this board took some very aggressive steps to get to where we were last year with the budget. We're not doing that. We're going to feel a little more comfortable with where we are budgeting expenditures. So we hope to be not as concerned and not having to monitor that as tightly as we've had to do in the last 6 months or so. And then I know Ms. Dickerson did the same thing the first 6 months. But I feel comfortable with this budget. It certainly doesn't have everything that we would like to have in a budget, but it is our plan. And certainly, as we monitor things, that's part of our monthly activities as we monitor these. If we see that we're falling short in some sort of revenues, we monitor that very carefully, and we put things on pause for a while and do things that we need to. So again, we're proud to present that and proud to answer any questions or make any adjustments that you feel necessary.
I'm pretty impressed with this budget because with losing ESSER funds and the decrease in TISA funds, we've had to cut about $2.5 million, right, out of expenditures. And we still got certified and classified raises in here. Not as much as I would have liked, but we still have some raises and step raises. And we have been able to keep some key positions we didn't think we were going to be able to. So I'm pretty impressed with the work we've done, even with the cuts in here.
And so just clarification, if we have a line item, and we approve the budget, there's nothing says we can't go and tweak a particular line item, like if this line item has $100 in it, and we need to put 50 over here, because we feel that this line item doesn't need that any longer, we have the opportunity to tweak a line item within inside the budget. So just so it says a line item doesn't mean we can't change it, because I think there's some discussion we're going to need to have.
I think that's those 5 or 6 budget amendments we did, Jeremy.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what that is.
Well, I think there's going to be some unusual ones we haven't dealt with in the past, and we're going to have some discussions about.
Great.
Yeah.
And Mr. Rice, I think that's part of what I see our responsibilities as being, and when I say that, Ms. Kleiner's department and my office, I think we understand our role as stewards of money, and we try to spend, it's not just a green light for everybody to go out and spend whatever's in their line item and do it quickly, but I think a budget reflects the boards, the administration. I think it reflects our values and our goals of what we'd like to accomplish. And so we try to use, that sensibility as we place line items and as we budget specifically for those. We know what software packages come out of certain line items, and we know what salaries come out of line items and things like that. We know how many tires we budgeted for buses and things like that. So yes, it is a plan, but it's also flexible. And as Mr. White said, as we see line items out of place during the year, we do bring those budget amendments to you. And certainly at any time during the school year, if you have questions about how things are being spent, where they're being spent, or if we decide we need to reprioritize something from one line item or one category to another, we certainly will manage that as best we can.
All right, board members, is there any further discussion, or is there a motion regarding the budget as presented?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Connie Hogan. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second by Mr. Jeff White. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sheila.
Yeah,
Good work.
I just want to say, I think she must dream about numbers. I don't.
That's what Mike tells me. He says I think he's told me before he's heard you saying numbers in your sleep. Like this. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure. I'm not a numbers person, but I know she is, and I'm thankful. I mean, I appreciate what you do.
And I want to say thank y'all. This has been the smoothest budget for me personally that I've been through. I feel like it went really smoothly this year, so thank y'all.
you.
And to our county commission too, thank y'all. Appreciate y'all being partners with us on this. It's been a pleasure working with y'all. Thank y'all. All right, so move on to construction plans and updates.
Mr. Sarles would ask you to quickly tell us what we're doing. I know there's really nothing other than what we're doing at IA and the start that we've had at IA right now. So I know you've had some meetings.
I'm sorry to share with you, Mr. Corbin's also here to answer questions, but we do have the IA parking lot. Additional stone has been placed, some of the bad dirt removed. They're still lowering that retention pond, so that's being worked. Unfortunately, weather delays have been an issue throughout the district, but that project's been a big part of it. The Coopertown Middle bleachers, had the opportunity to see some footers and concrete. Target is still on to have that completed by hopefully July 4th, but we do look for concrete to be poured this week.
4 o'clock tomorrow morning.
All right.
West Side Elementary, the HVAC system there, as you're aware, that project is still ongoing, but scheduled to be completed due to the ESSER funding and the requirement to be done by the end of June, so we're looking for that to be completed. We did have a pre-construction meeting with the Innovation Academy renovation. That meeting took place on Tuesday. Mr. Finch, Ms. Cord, and myself met with the contractors and school administrators. They're going to be putting that schedule together, that work schedule. We'll coordinate it with the school calendar. They are scheduled to start demolition on the 3rd floor ceiling and also all restrooms. One of the things that we'll note is that, again, the contract's been signed, they gotta get their subs in place and then the equipment order. Just as we did at West Side, you're aware that one of the items for the electrical upgrade, the switch gear, takes forever and a day to get here. So hopefully that can get here by Christmas. And there'll be some scheduled work to overcome that. This is a 14-month job, so we anticipate perhaps by fall break of next school year, all of this work will be completed. But they are getting started. We're excited about that. And finally, the West Side renovation and expansion. As soon as the comptroller's letter is arrived and the money gets transferred, we'll look to have contracts signed there and get that rolling. And hopefully next time we can report about a pre-construction meeting on the West Side.
Thank you, Mr. Charles. Any questions? Good. Under our 615 topics, our next phases of our building plan, if you'll remember the slides that we had that had the 6 panels on it, we are down and we'll have completed 4 of those 6 panels when all these projects get through. So I'm very proud of the work that this board has authorized and approved to get done and taken care of. So we're looking very good on there. I've shared with a lot of you when I first entered my new office, there was a stack of blueprints and a stack of files and a stack of documents on there about building all these things and taking care of all these things. And I'm kind of glad to start seeing some of those taken care of. And I know you've said those have been out there a long time, and so we're glad to get those at least moving and get away from some of those things. But as we say that, the next topic on there is thinking about where we need to go next and what we need to do next. And I know we've shared, looking for additional land. We're always out there looking for land. We've had those other topics that you shared. A new middle school in the White House area is going to be essential that we look at doing. We mentioned the transportation facility. We looked at the gym at Greenbrier High School. So as we think about taking the panels that we have on there and wiping those off and moving those off, we need to think about what we want to do to replace those and what we'd like to do, and again, putting those on some kind of prioritized list. We've had a couple of commissioners from the Finance Committee also share with us already that there's some building sites and some land that the county owns in various places around the county, and they'd like to provide that list to us to see if that's of any benefit to us in any way. So we're looking forward and anxious to get those locations so that we can at least take a look at those, and I'll share those with you as soon as I get those. But we also need to be thinking about, one commissioner asked me at our last budget meeting, when are we ready to build another school? And is that going to be White House or is it going to be something else? So again, putting those out there, and those are things that keep me awake at night, so I'm going to share those with you and let you join me in staying awake at night thinking about what we need to do next. But just again for thought, for not necessarily discussion tonight, but for your thoughts, and start putting those together so that we can think about where to go next. Item 2 under that topic is we'd had some discussion about our substitute teaching providers, and so I'd asked Ms. Galuzzi to share some data with you, share some things that her department was doing, and then again to come back and from a financial perspective, I think she and Ms. Kleiner both have put together some numbers that would help you see what some of the things that maybe we don't think about and what impact that they would have on us as we think about our employees and benefits that go along with those. So, Ms. Galuzzi, thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for preparing the document that you shared with the board.
Absolutely. So first of all, I just wanted to share the good news about what ESS does for us as a district. First of all, we're seeing some great success as far as the fill rate goes. You can see it is broken down by semester and then year-wide. Through ESS, more than 3,000 additional vacancies were filled this year by substitutes. I also included some information about some things that are beyond just filling a vacancy. Some things that they do for us: they provide ongoing recruitment, weekly onboarding, weekly training for new substitutes. At the end of the year, we had 265 active substitutes, and they already had 31 trained, ready to begin for 24-25. She will continue to recruit all summer long, so that number will grow as the summer continues. A couple of things to think about as far as what they do for us. We have approximately 65 substitutes that work 3 to 4 days a week. That includes 19 permanent substitutes that work every day. We right now offer benefits to anyone who averages 25 hours a week, and we did that to help out with transportation and school nutrition. And if we were to offer benefits to those 65 substitutes who are averaging probably about 25 hours a week, we would have to offer them benefits. If they chose that, that would be an additional cost to us of $20,000, which would, if they all took the maximum, it would be over $1 million. So that's one thing that ESS provides to them. They offer benefits. If we were to do that as our employees, it would be quite an impact to our budget. They also provide workers' compensation insurance for their employees. Unfortunately, we have had a couple of substitutes who got hurt this year, and that did not go as a claim to our workers' comp. That went through ESS. So that was another benefit that they provide to us. They also have an electronic substitute call system. We did not choose to use that this year. We really felt like we were doing enough new things for this first year, but we are planning on using that next year. We currently have Smart Find, which is something that we've had for quite a while, since I was a principal in the schools, and that costs $16,422 annually. So by going with their program, which is a part of their fee to us, that would save us an additional $16,422. ESS has done some surveying of our school principals, and you can see this was their mid-year survey. They have not done the end-of-the-year survey yet, but at mid-year, you could see that the majority of our principals were in the satisfied to very satisfied category. There was one who was neutral. Also, a benefit to us is that the ESS staff are accessible to us. They are very responsive to any of our needs or concerns. They not only have targeted recruitment and incentives in all of our hard-to-fill areas, but they also deal with any employee discipline we've had. Unfortunately, there have been a couple of incidents this year where substitutes did things that are not in alignment with our district expectations. If it was something that was not detrimental to a student, and it was just something that they could provide some additional training, then that's what they did. But if it was something that we really would not allow anyone to do, then they dismissed them. And that is based on our call. Our district manager calls me and says, "What do you want to do?" I usually have a conversation with the principal, and we determine what we're going to do. There have been some people that we've just decided aren't good fits in an elementary school or in a high school, and we've just said they can't go to those. And sometimes we've said, you know what, they just don't need to come back. And that's something that ESS takes care of for us. I did want to also, I kind of skipped over this, I did provide a fill rate by school. That's the last sheet in your packet. On this sheet, it shows you what the fill rate was for 22-23 versus what it was for this school year. Overall, everyone's fill rate increased except for 2 schools. One area that has already been a strategic target for ESS, but will continue for next year is Cheatham Park Elementary School. And what our district manager is doing right now, she is surveying all of the substitutes who subbed in that school to see if there are things that are preventing people from wanting to take that job. We don't know of anything specifically of why substitutes are not accepting jobs there, but I do know that our district manager has offered targeted incentives to get substitutes to accept those jobs. And when she does recruitment, she talks about Cheatham Park specifically, wanting to have more substitutes there. But I will say, even with the low fill rate in that building, the principal is still pleased with the system. Also, Greenbrier Elementary School had a slight dip in their fill rate. A couple of things that I do know about, they had 3, we looked back at the year before who was doing a lot of their substituting. There were 3 people who did quite a bit. 2 of them we hired full-time in the district to take a classified staff position, and 1 was a retired teacher who chose not to work for ESS. So that might not be all of the reason why this showed a slight decline, but I do know that that did have an impact. Those 2 people were not the only 2 people that used to sub for us that we hired full-time. We've had a couple of other people who worked enough hours to have benefits, and so we worked with them and we found them places of employment with us. So we didn't want anyone to feel like they were losing anything by going with another company. So we really worked with them so that they could have another position. Some benefits that ESS provides for our substitutes. They provide weekly direct deposit. I can't tell you what an incentive this is for our employees. You know, the top end of our substitute scale is $100, and that's for a retired school teacher. And for people who are working for $80 a day, it's very difficult to wait a whole month to get their paycheck. And so I love that they are able to pay them weekly. It's 1 week in arrears, so at the beginning of the school year, you'll work 2 weeks before you get your first paycheck. County Finance does not pay anyone weekly, and they also don't offer direct deposit when we used to pay our own subs, and that's because that group of people is changing all the time. It's not a consistent group of people, and also they don't have a consistent pay. And even when we hire our full-time employees, it takes a month before they get direct deposit. So their first check is always paper. So the fact that they don't even offer that is definitely something that is an incentive that ESS can provide. They also, I think our substitutes really enjoy the incentives that the district manager provides. They do weekly, monthly, and yearly awards. They have raffles where if you average a certain amount of days per month, you get your name put into a raffle, and they get different kinds of prizes like baskets with gift cards and things like that. Our district manager looks ahead. For example, if they see that a school does not have enough subs for Friday, then they'll offer something to them. Maybe it's a gift card or something like that. And those are things that we just can't do. We're not set up to buy gift cards for people or to offer incentives. You know, we have a PO process here that goes through the county finance office. It could take up to 2 weeks before we could actually purchase something. And we just don't have that kind of quick turnaround to be able to do the things that they can do. They also work really closely with our school office personnel, providing goodies to them, brochures, cards, magnets, always trying to recruit parents and other people that come to the school anyway to see if they might want to be a sub. They attend local events, they go to PTO meetings, they go to athletic events, they go to community events like the Turning of the Pig in Greenbrier, they were there. They have online recruiting, they're on Indeed, they are on our district and school Facebook pages, they have local hiring pages, they also have flyers like I just mentioned, not only in our schools, but also in local places and YMCA, library, things like that. They have really good communication with the substitutes. They have text messaging campaigns that provide assistance with how to accept a job. They also reach out to people who show an interest. Maybe they complete the application, but then they never accept a job. They reach out to them. They reach out to them after they take their first job to see how it went. And if the people say, ooh, I really didn't like that, then they say, well, maybe high school wasn't a good fit for you, let's try elementary. So they're constantly trying to communicate with their substitutes and encourage them to take more jobs. The only other perk that I wanted to bring your attention to, we do have retired teachers working for ESS. And back in the day, before we had such a hard time filling roles, we had to limit people and how many days they could work because they could only work X amount of days to any organization that contributes to TCRS. Because ESS does not, that doesn't limit our retired teachers. So they can work as many days as they want to work, and there's no limit based on TCRS. So those are just some things that I put together with my experience this year. If you have any questions for me or for Ms. Sheila, I'd be glad to try to answer them.
Board members, do y'all have any questions?
Yeah, my survey don't match their survey. Maybe
Okay.
we need to do a survey.
Okay.
I don't know why we would accept a self-survey for anything. I can make myself look great if I do my own survey.
Okay.
I would like, because that's not what I'm hearing.
Okay.
And I would hate to know that 2 schools had less coverage and thought that that was satisfied or very satisfied. What is, all of this cost us what?
I know it's less than we budgeted. Ms. Sheila, do you have the
I
total?
don't have that number, but I
Okay.
can get it tomorrow.
Okay.
That's a great number to have.
Okay.
Because if it cost us so much that we could hire people to do the same thing, I mean, they're just doing a great job of promoting their employees. They're doing a great job of incentivizing them. They're doing a great job of gifting them to make them want to work. We might learn from that. I mean, I try to learn from that every day.
Sure.
Because I have to hire people every day too, so I have to come up with different things, so. I don't know, I personally am not happy, my own personal reasons, with the company. I don't like the price that I know it costs above what it's gonna cost. We pay a lot of money for them to give trinkets out. I call them bribe gifts. When they bring them into my office, I call them bribe gifts. They want me to love them, you know, so. I'm just not pleased with it.
I will be happy to do a survey with our principals, and if you have specific questions that you would suggest that I ask, I'll be glad to include those.
I'd love to include the teachers. I know it's hard to get people to take surveys, especially in June,
Yes.
July, and August.
Yeah. Well,
But
well, they might have more time now.
I heard from a lot of teachers that
Okay.
were very dissatisfied.
Okay.
Do the teachers interface with this much?
Well, they still do their same putting in
Okay.
for a sub, like they always have. And we did not change that this year, so their process hasn't changed.
Okay,
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that,
okay,
we're still having to do the same stuff.
yeah.
Well, what they do is they log into, right now we have SmartFind, which is what we've had, like I said, since I was a principal. So they log in with their password and they click, I need a sub for this day, and this is the reason.
Yeah, okay. So next year, though, we're talking about going with ESS is what they use?
They have their own digital platform, and
Okay.
theirs actually has an app on their phone and things like that. So it might be more convenient for them to do it versus what we have now.
So it might be a good idea to get some teacher comments now and then after ESS is.
Next year, maybe to
That way we
see.
could see if it wasn't.
That's a great idea.
Okay. Okay.
So does it, sorry, does
I had a stupid comment, so I'll let you be serious for a minute.
does a teacher, a lot of teachers have, in the past, has a network of subs that they used to work with and have always worked with.
They can still do that. They can request a certain person.
Is that process more difficult now than it was before? Now, in other words, if Ms. Hogan wants to be, she's my sub and I'm out and do I call her? Do I have to have a whole nother process just to get her into my classroom?
You can request someone in SmartFind, or you can even, like say you just see them in the hall and you have a conversation and said, oh, I'm glad I saw you. I'm gonna be out tomorrow. Will you come for me? When you put in that you're gonna be out tomorrow, you can say that someone's been assigned and you can put that person in.
Okay.
And some of those folks, which
Uh-huh.
I'm glad we have,
Yeah,
they come hang out at the schools every now and then to say, you know, anybody need a sub, I'm here. And I know that happens because there's several folks who will go ahead and, I mean,
Like
I know
book
that
them or
do a
whatever.
week ahead, a month ahead.
oh, sure,
You
yeah.
know, so,
And
and
we
there are some
encourage-
teachers that specialize.
Yeah.
So a math teacher loves to find somebody
Oh.
who's a sub that's a good math.
Absolutely.
I like the way that is. I think the app, from what I was told by another group of folks, I think the app will help a lot.
I think so too. Right now, the substitutes have an app through SmartFind, but the teachers don't.
Right.
So the teachers still, and especially someone who's not absent very often, they have to remember their login and everything like that. And that, we don't want them to be absent very often, but then, you know, there's a crisis, your child wakes up sick, and then all of a sudden you're trying to remember your password. So that, the new, it's called Will Sub Plus, they do have an app for teachers and subs. So I think that that will be a positive.
I was gonna say, I think they should recruit from the people that show up at car rider lines at 12 o'clock. Like say, hey, you're already here half a day.
Right.
Yes,
Why,
why not
come get
teach?
paid for it.
Yes,
We'll leave you can leave your car here.
I love that.
Park in the front of the line.
I know, I used to always be amazed as a principal, the people who would get there 2 hours
Yeah.
early to save 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, that's not really good math.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So the experience for the teacher that needs a sub is unchanged for.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that has
That's
not
a
changed.
mess.
Right, and we're hoping that with the new one, from what we've seen, it's gonna be, yeah, a positive step.
Well, and I think the positive, I mean, it's great that the fill rate's higher overall, and it also takes some liability away from us.
It does, and then also, I mean, number one, I'm thrilled that we have 65 people who are working 3 or 4 days a week. That's what we want. We want them to work as much as possible. But then if we had to start offering them benefits, that would be a huge budget impact. And I hadn't really thought about that until Sheila and I had a conversation.
She likes to pick that high number of 25.
Well,
And the payroll,
$20,000.
and the payroll is, I know,
Come on,
I heard from subs that kept them from subbing with us is the monthly payroll.
Yeah.
And we don't have a mechanism we could even offer, not
No.
weekly and
I
direct
hadn't
deposit.
figured that out. A county as big as ours and a budget as big as the entire county's budget,
Yeah.
why we can't figure out how to write a check every week? I never figured
my
that
whole
out.
career, I've only gotten paid once a month, you know?
That's tough.
It is,
Yeah.
it is.
Is there a number that's readily available or easily obtainable that says, okay, prior years we had this many that were signed on to sub? The pool is this big, which I think we've got on that, versus how many actually take a job a week or a couple jobs a week? or-
So last year, before we went with this, I did that. We had probably close to 400 people who had signed up to sub, about 120 that had taken like 2 jobs in a year.
Okay.
So really, about 120 people were actually working for us. We had a whole bunch of people in there, but, you know, it just, they never answered their phone, they never took a job. For whatever reason, their life could have changed, or, you know, or whatever, or it just wasn't for them.
Thank you, Ms. Galucci.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And board members, I'm like you, I look through this list and I know what we are. I know we have a large budget for our ESS, and yes, we could probably hire 3 or 4 employees to do that. I mean, that's going to be more work on HR department, and yes, they can specialize in doing these things. The things that concern me are, tracking how many days they're working as part-time employees and knowing whether we can do that, providing benefits to them if we have to do that. The oversight of those substitutes when we do have an issue has saved Ms. Galuzzi multiple hours of not having to meet with people, go through a due process with them as we run into problems and reassignments and things like that. It has been something, again, could we do it? Yes. Is it going to cost us more in benefits? I believe it would. So again, we just continue to monitor that and see what we're doing. If you have comments, thoughts, or suggestions that we need to do or talk with them about, they have been very responsive the times we have called. had conversations. So again, wanted you to have that information.
Hey, but they do a lot of good things with the employees that I'd love to see us do more of. I know some people have the candy wagon they run around with at the schools and things like that. More of that's better, always. I know it costs
Anytime
money.
a building principal can build that school culture,
Yes.
that makes that better for all
That's
of us.
good moves.
Thank you. Mr. Charles, I think you had some information about custodial services as well.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Week. Board members, our facility management firm, HES, we want you to know that since our arrival in December, we've had multiple opportunities to sit down with the leadership there and discuss, as you know, the concerns that may arise. Mr. David Helton, who's Executive Vice President, and our area manager, Andrew Johnson, have been very receptive to us and have listened to the concerns that have been shared with them. We were excited a couple of 2 or 3 weeks ago that they had introduced to us a manager that has been recently assigned to our district, Mr. Kyle Myers. I actually talked with him this morning, and Mr. Myers is a manager to oversee everything, is also one who is hands-on and willing to do whatever it takes. I came by here one night after graduation, and he was working his office because somebody didn't show up to work, and so he was taking it upon himself to get the job done and to work through that. So as we have worked with HES, I think it's fair to say, as you're aware, there continue to be some areas of concern, some spots of concern that we would look at. Unfortunately, some of our buildings have had challenges that need to overcome and go with that. At a recent meeting, we did receive from them, you're aware that our principals report, or they do have a report card that's issued in. So HES has taken those reports, and from that assembled, 9 schools rated their service at 90% or higher. And the overall score district-wide with all 22 scores, with all 22 schools, the average score was 86. So overall, we might be able to look to see that, yes, we kind of have this perception overall. However, 6 of those schools rated the service at 75 or below. 2 of those schools were not satisfied at all. So again, we continue to have the hot spots, the trouble spots, the concerns that we go to. We also have taken it upon ourselves, so we know these schools that they particularly are dissatisfied. We've gone and speak with those administrators, and as we work through and talk to them about what they're reporting, and we try to find and look at areas of their concern, we ask, do you report these? Have you got someone to call, someone to contact? Yes. Are they responsive to the concern when you call? Very responsive, yes. So one of the things that's encouraging is that the leadership management is working to resolve problems, and as we continue to work with administrators to identify what the problem really is, it's always come down to staffing, right? So adequate staffing, enough staffing. Ms. Galuzzi would tell you that resources such as these are difficult to come by, and with such a low unemployment rate and where things are right now, the cycle of availability, what parts of the year are people looking for additional income and maybe picking up a part-time job, sometimes that affects it as well. So again, the issues are known. The responsiveness of the company has been more than adequate, and again, any time that I've called and left messages, they've always gotten back with me. So just reminding the board members that these relationships that we're looking to build up and work with, appreciate your support as we continue to try to address these concerns that go with it. Again, if it wasn't for the fact that we recognize the responsiveness there could be great concerns, but we do know that the effort is behind what we're trying to ask for, and they're looking to try to exceed the expectations that we might have. So any questions you may have, or anything else that I can find for you?
Any idea how many managers they've had over the last 3 years?
So there are, we do know, and since we've been here in December, there was an interim that came in that we were very familiar with, and till then, Mr. Myers come in. Now, there's also area leaders that they may have. So I've got my contact, Mr. Corbin would work through as well. Then I know they also have their area people that are assigned. So How many, that turnover rate, I don't know, but I can look to see what we find.
Well, the only reason I say that is we can't build a relationship with them because they can't keep the same people.
Yeah,
We have a terrible supply issue. We should not, a principal should not waste 1 minute of her day calling about toilet paper. That should not be a concern on the principal's table.
right.
There should be stock, there should be counted stock there, and it should be fully stocked every week. I mean, they know what they use a week. These people are smart.
Yeah,
And that should be there at the beginning of every week. But that's the emails I consistently got, along with my building is filthy and they're not cleaning it, just over and over and over.
there's one particular school in Greenbrier area that has been a problem
And
throughout the
they
year.
write emails, buddy, let me
Yeah.
tell you.
They write emails, I agree with you.
So what schools are the issues, the biggest issues we have right now?
Greenbrier Middle and Crestview.
Okay.
And I just got an email, I hate to throw her under the bus, from Greenville Elementary.
Is that about a week ago?
Yeah.
That came from staff when they reported to the principal to explain what all had. That, again, all the questions were based on the expectations that always been in place. So staff said one thing, managers were able to provide a different perspective to the principal.
That's my only issue with them, that and.
Well, I know
Anytime
that,
we want to take a trip and just go check a school, I'll be more than glad to go with you.
sure. And we've done that ourselves, spot checking, because again, we've got these reports about they're not satisfied, so we go try to see exactly what it might be. Now, can it be better? They would answer the question, yes, they want to be better. So yes, anything can be improved. Sometimes it's a perspective of, the white glove test versus, a building that's got 600 or 700 kids running through it every day. And so
And I think we all
that's a part of
understand.
how, this building principal may look at things versus this building principal, but we want to get everybody satisfied, yeah.
And I think one thing that we've shared with their leadership, again, we've had a relationship with the management of HES, and we worked with them over a period of 12 or 13 years. But we've had some very frank conversations with them that we have to see improvements, and we must see improvements. And I think they hear that, and that's where my light of hope is with that company. I think whatever company the management is, you're gonna have to develop those relationships to find employees, to teach them how to do their job, to teach them to work at night unsupervised, and then to teach them the processes that are in place. And again, I think our bid's up next year, Ms. Kleiner. So, we've told them our expectation is
There's not an automatic option to.
not next year, no, sir.
Good.
So-
We're rebidding it.
Right.
Okay.
And so that's what we've told them is we know there's gonna be bid next year. We want our buildings to be such a case that we're so pleased with it. That would be, assuming price is not the final factor, but we want to be so pleased with it, there's not a question about who we go with.
There was a time, sir, and this stopped about a year ago. Stopped when hi, Stephen Hudak, if you're watching. When Stephen left, we no longer received the report cards unless the principal sent them to us. And like, I've got a report card here. I won't even mention the school. DFC, FFCD. That's bad.
It's not acceptable, you're right.
Right. So I hope y'all stirred them up and got them going, because that was about the time y'all got
Frank
started.
conversations, again, if you've got a concern that comes to us, we turn it over to them, let them know what it might be. When I hear from a school, we've got a contact, we let them know, this is something to be aware of. So again, their responsiveness and their reaction, that we could be satisfied, but again, we've got to get to a point where we're not there. We're not getting those concerns and complaints. All right? Thank you, Dr. Reed.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Board members, under our 615 item, we left blank for any other discussion you'd like to have this evening or any other items that are pressing. This is a regular special session, so we did announce those topics that we would be covering tonight. I think we've covered everything on the agenda, but if you have anything you'd like for us to address or take care of, we'll be glad to do that as well.
Did we want to have the IA discussion now, or do we want to wait till we have more information on that?
And I think it's worth, I think, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but there's a lot of things I wasn't aware of. And I know we're gonna have to have a lot of discussions coming up. I know we got, kids are involved, parents are involved, and apparently people have been having conversations without, I'm speaking for myself, I had no idea some of that stuff was going on. So we're gonna have some discussions about future and who says what, and how they say it, and how the word gets out. So we're not all, one thing, when somebody emails me, I remember a few years ago, a parent wanted to know why 6 people didn't respond. It's because you'll get 6 different answers.
Yeah.
So it's important that we keep the message consistent so our parents know exactly what's going on. If we have an administration out there doing stuff that's we're unaware of,
Yeah.
we got a problem. That hurts our families and our kids. So we're going to have some pretty quick discussions about messaging, what gets out, who approves it, who sees it, because I don't like getting emails, I have no idea what's going on. So I think probably some meetings coming up pretty soon will probably be important.
So where are we at right now regarding the students that, are we doing the co-op with Springfield at all right now? With IA in Springfield?
To my knowledge, I think it's done.
They're gonna leave the students that were already on the team.
Yeah, if you're a sophomore, you're good. If you're an incoming freshman,
If you're on the team, it's not if you're a sophomore, if you're on the team. You've got kids trying out now that are being told they made the team and then being told they're not on the team because they're at IA.
yeah, they're freshmen, incoming freshmen, right?
Not all of them, no.
Okay. So that's some things we're going to have to address. I don't know how this thing got.
I hope that y'all understand the urgency to this, because TSSAA will request rosters from all these coaches. And many of the coaches at Springfield High School offered slots to the IA students as agreed upon. Not only did they let them try out, it was continued to be promoted at IA, and they have taken away the rights of the parents to make the decisions for their children, because any of us could have gone back to our home zone school. Any of us could have gone to homeschooling and tried out for our homeschool zone according to TSSAA. Or we could have sought out a private school option. But we were not given those choices.
Thank you.
And we can still, so to my knowledge, even today, if you're a student in IA and things are, for whatever reason, they're different, we're going to allow them to go back to the home school if they choose to go, right? I mean, there's no reason not to do that, correct?
Yes, sir. And I think that goes back to what is this board's desire? What is the programming desire for IA? Is it to become a 6 high school in Robertson County? Or is it designed for a specific purpose for students who select a STEM or a STEAM program? And I think
When I voted on it, it was for an academic school, STEM, STEAM, whatever you want to call it. It wasn't about athletics at all. It was an academic, and in our minds, they could do the Springfield thing. This was, how many years ago, Ms. Connie? Yeah, a few. We'll say a few years ago.
Several years ago.
Yeah, and so that's what's always been in my mind. And then in the last 2 years, I don't know where the permission come from to do what they're doing, or if they're just driving their own ship over there.
Well, it seems like to me that there is a lot of miscommunication between us and the school. I'm talking us, the board, the schools. What we thought was going on was what I'm getting, I wasn't here when IA started, was the intent was it would not have a full athletic program because IA is set aside to be different. We don't want it to be just another high school. It needs to be different, experimental. It needs to serve children that are better served by the programs there. So we don't want it to just look like any other school. So the idea was it would not have an athletic program, but it would co-op with Springfield High School for athletics.
Which I think, you know, if you are, we've got a lot, I've noticed over, you know, watching graduations and this and that, you know, our county has a ton of high-performing athletes that are also high-performing academically. And yeah, I think if you're a student that cares about, you know, your life in sports and everything like that, but wants those opportunities that a school like I would afford, then they've got to make a choice. You know, I don't want to say give up, but do I want to not play at the most competitive level because I want to go to the school that furthers me academically? I mean, I don't think they should have to make that decision personally.
Well, they wouldn't if they was.
If the co-op was available, if the co-op goes away, then I think that's
Right.
absolutely what happened.
But what happened was, it was supposed to be that, and then they added a sport here and a sport there, and suddenly IA is doing some sports, not other sports. Some kids are co-oping for this, but they're not co-oping, and I think that was where part of the confusion come from. Do we have time as a board to say that we're gonna allow the co-op to go for at least this next year, or is it?
Yes, sir. We think, you know, we will implement whatever guidelines and recommendations and direction you give us to go, and we'll make sure those things are implemented to the expectation and the level you'd want to. I know you've received some communications that at least our staff sat down with administration from IA, and you have some documentation that you've seen that was as early as February that
Yeah, if
explained the upcoming directions. Now, why that didn't get communicated out, I can't answer that, but it was very clear.
Now, the way I see it is, if we were going to end the co-op, I think it should be something, it should be, it has to be communicated very well, but it needs to be a school year, you know, in advance. That way a student knows, if I want to play this sport next year, because it's not going to be an option at all here, I need to go back to my school of zone. But also, I think if this isn't for tonight, but if we say we did vote to reinstate the co-op for this year or through a certain year tonight, there needs to be a future discussion about, I don't know that we need to continue building out these programs at IA because we are offering them already at Springfield High School. And I know it's not a popular topic, but because we're talking about getting rid of a team, but they have a team at Springfield High School. That was the original vision, was if you wanted to play it, if you wanted to be on teams on a sport, you would go to Springfield High School and still continue at IA. So I think we are going to have, it's got to be, in my mind, it's got to be one way or the other. We either have athletics or IA, or we co-op at Springfield. We can't keep doing this mishmash of some things are here, some things are there. I think it would be much cleaner if we did that.
May I ask one question?
Yes, ma'am.
We allow these co-ops with other schools within our district.
100%.
So why not? It's either everybody or nobody.
Yes, ma'am. We were saying that, I think one comment about IA being different is, was designed to be a very different school. It's
I
not,
understand that, but if you're going to do away with
yeah,
co-op
excuse me.
option
Yes,
there,
ma'am.
or you're going to do away with co-op
No,
for
ma'am.
everybody?
IA is a choice, by the way.
IA is a voluntary choice, and so it has some programs at IA we don't have at schools. There are things they do and that are funded at IA. They're not funded at my kids' Joe Burns school, so I could, you know, but my kids have to go to Joe Burns, guess where they're zoned, and they didn't win the lottery. So, you know, that IA is going to be set apart to be different. When the co-op was fully going, I got all kinds of complaints from parents about, why don't you offer athletic block? That's not fair. But the kids, especially in high school, they don't have time for athletic block. They can't graduate on time if they're doing athletic block at IA because they have extra requirements on their diploma. But
What is the extra requirements they have on diploma?
isn't there part of the course of the
They
program?
have some programs that students who are enrolled at IA, it's not additional credits, but it's additional programming, focus of
I was
study,
getting
areas
it to
of
me,
study.
so- sorry.
But I would personally like to bring up for a discussion, and if someone wants to make a motion, or if we don't want to act on it at all, to allow the co-op for at least this upcoming school year. And then we can have the discussion about what is it going to look like going forward. Because we do still, as I understand it, have time for the kids that got on teams at Springfield and found out later they couldn't play, they could still get on those teams for this year. I just don't like the idea that a student athlete found out at the very possible last minute, you don't get to play that sport this year, and they don't have any options for playing it anywhere else. So that's a situation I'd like to fix this year, and I'm personally in support of the co-op. But we
The co-op
do.
had there was a set of parameters that when that co-op was set up, this is what we're doing, this is the co-op. Well, one party decides, makes changes to it.
Yeah, that's where the
And
confusion
this
came.
other party's going, wait a minute, we all agreed for a number of years that this is where we're going to operate. Then somebody says, well, we're going to do our own thing. And that's what the problem is. So if you reinstate this, then you got to somehow fix this.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
So,
And Mr. Rice, do you know if those were committed in writing somewhere? I mean, I don't have those, and I don't have any access to
so I
that.
think there was a document last year. This came up last year, and I think Dr. College sent an email or something outlining expectation. In fact, I looked through some emails this afternoon trying to find that.
So if we could
And I think that was
search,
communicated to administration IA about plans. I don't know if the rest of y'all remember getting one, but
Is this mainly about football?
this is just in sports in general, about you're gonna do A, B, and C, and that's it.
and was that, you said it was in the spring?
Yeah, because I sent some emails about this topic last spring, when they started to do 8-man football, this discussion came up. And then it went from 8-man football to 11, and I think the only way I found out was Mr. White sent me the TSAA, and I had no idea that was going on.
So what sports are affected right now? Is it football, basketball, what?
Soccer, football.
Cross country.
IA is committed to football, volleyball, and bowling for this school year.
But we had students that tried out for teams at Springfield and found out the day that they found out they got on the team, found out they couldn't play because we ended the co-op.
Gotcha.
And just to throw mud on the water, sometimes it don't matter what we as a board would vote, it goes to what TSSAA says.
TSSAA says it's a.
Ma'am, please.
Ma'am, thank you.
So again, the issues with the cooperative, there was established an agreement that it would run through the 26-27 school year. As you have progressed in trend, as they have moved up, the school wanted to create a high school environment and atmosphere. And so they elected to offer their own programming. And once you do that, then that effectively ends the cooperative. You are required to go back to that school. You would not be able to transfer then, because then without a subsequent change in residence, you would be ineligible. So when you start a program, that means you have to come back there. As IA has expanded their vision about what they would like to do and how they'd like to offer it, they're challenged with facilities. They're also challenged by a small enrollment. So from all that, and then on the other side, there's another school. Again, the application of this creates a lot of issues that have to be worked out. The lack of athletic block and how students get back and forth and what they do. There's difficulties on the other end. So from that standpoint, there needs to be some form of compromise. Now, I'm publicly admitting I'm taking full responsibility for where we are right now. We should not be in this position as a former coach. I regret students were put in the position that they were. That's unfortunate. It should not have happened. But in order to resolve the conflict between two schools, we met together, we discussed, come up to some type of compromise or conclusions where they might be. Now, those meetings were conducted, we followed it up, documented through email about what the message would be, because we wanted to support whatever message that Innovation Academy or Springfield High School wanted. We wanted to support that. We had to create the message first. So that's the results that we had. Unfortunately, it's obvious it did not get communicated. Even though there were some things that might imply that they were communicated, they were not. And that's what I regret the most of. So in order to establish, again, you're going to have a situation, if you stick by the cooperative ending in 26-27, a freshman who tries out and makes a team, you're fixing to tell them as a senior they can no longer play because the cooperative ends. So you either got to go back to IA and create what you can do, or we open the door and figure out a way to solve the problems that have been created by students going to another school to play athletics. Now, cooperatives are generally for one or two sports. it's not for the whole gamut of athletic competition. So again, there are issues that are created from it. The intent was to resolve conflict between two schools. One school wants to end the cooperative as soon as possible. The other school is looking to provide opportunities for students, and we are all about providing opportunities for students. That's what we want. So what is that going to be? For IA, opportunities could be one thing or the other. Springfield is a traditional school that has those things going on already, so.
I've got one item, just food for thought as far as all this goes. I understand, IA as set forth was the STEM and STEAM school and everything like that. Well, those opportunities are not afforded at our traditional schools. And they said, well, we want a more traditional high school experience and to offer the sports. I feel like if one of our traditional high schools had come to us and said, well, we want to beef up our STEM and STEAM program and do X, Y, Z, they would have been met with a lot more opposition because of funding and whatever, because of the number of students. The same issues that are kind of on the one hand for IA are still there with our traditional schools if the tables have been turned. I'm in favor of the co-op. I feel like we can't, in this situation, every school can't have everything, but we have designated a school that can provide a very specialized type of education for children or students that want to take advantage of that and are accepted. I feel like that just kind of comes with the territory. Again,
Will we have the option in 26, 27 of extending the co-op? Is that?
I don't know where the deadline came from or how that was established, that was before my time, but the cooperative is typically renewed on an annual basis, however you choose to do it, whatever you might need to do.
So am I understanding is the same sports that you're co-oping, some of those sports exist now
At
at IA?
Football would have been the example. Once they established a football team, you could no longer go to Springfield and play football, you had to play there.
And that's where it got.
Likewise, they've got 6 or 7 soccer players. If they establish a soccer team at IA, those students would require to come back and play. They could no longer stay at Springfield to play.
That's where I say, I think it got muddied up. Because it was just, if you go to IA, you co-op at Springfield, but once they started forming their own teams now, which you do unless you play this sport or if this, it got more complicated.
I don't understand, the conflict and the cooperative agreement needs to be in place. However, the other party can't change it. There needs to be a clear set of definition that says IA offers A, B, and C for these 4 years, end of story. When one changes it, it changes the whole thing. There's ways any contract's done. So we as a board, if we have the ability to establish, IA, you're going to offer A, B, and C, end of story. If we're going to honor a corporate agreement with another school, we've got to have clear direction so our parents know when they're coming up, things are not going to change because somebody decides to change.
And these athletics, especially for football, that's already locked into place. I'm pretty sure that without paying a lot of fees, they're not getting out of that schedule for the coming school year. Am I correct?
I don't know what contracts are now. They used to be.
We had discussed with them where they were, there were signed contracts, but felt like there was, I don't know what the outcome's going to be, but there was some discussions about the schedule and what they might look to kind of adjust that some.
Well, that schedule is dangerous for our student athletes, in my opinion.
There were some agreements that are in place that look to protect and design, but at the same time, I don't doubt that there were some concerns that would automatically come up with that.
Yeah.
One of the other things I would share with you, and I'm thinking Mr. Rice, if they go back to facilities and nothing else, obviously Innovation Academy with their gymnasium and the lack of baseball, softball fields, those are going to be big challenges going forward. So if you elect to say that the cooperative stays in place, it should be designed for specific reasons and purposes such as that. The problem with basketball, though, if you've only got the one athletic block, that kills a basketball player. How are you going to get there to play basketball when you're still in school? You see what I'm saying? With practice and how that thing goes. Spring, baseball, softball, maybe that works out. I don't know. I'm still not sure exactly if athletic block is 1 per year or if it's 1 per career. But nonetheless, those are some things.
Football's been working with our IA kids on that, haven't they?
They've been working through and working off.
We've had IA kids playing football at Springfield, and they've worked around the fact that our IA students weren't in athletic block.
That's true, and so now that they've established a program though, TSSAA.
Oh, yeah,
You
yeah.
can have some students.
No,
you know,
football,
participating in one
if they're
sport.
playing 1A football this year, the football's out of the question for the co-op, so.
And offered again, what we can do to help collaborate between the two schools, cooperate between the two schools is examine facilities and what can and cannot work, and then go from there. But, again, to open up and to say that all athletic programming through the co-op has been an issue that, one school has particularly had the brunt of and having to work through those challenges that come with it, so.
Has there been complaints from Springfield about managing the co-op?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's where everything falls, and again, a lot of it just comes from the, not knowing, you know, what to expect from one year to the next, and, you know, who the kids may be, where they're gonna go that school, this school, and, a lot of it is the unknown, the questions that don't have answers to them.
Well, would there be an interest in voting to reinstate the co-op for the next year but I do say that we're gonna commit to a later vote on IA athletics in general, defining what it's gonna be or what it's not gonna be.
Evidently, somebody else decided what it was gonna be.
Yeah, the only way I would agree to that is if it went back the way when the agreement was done, everything was at that level. So these programs that have just started has to go away, because if I'm punishing this party by saying you gotta honor this,
Yeah.
and this one was allowed to do what they wanted to do.
Okay.
So there's got to be some discussion that if we do that, then the other party, I mean, that agreement needs to be in place.
I agree. I just wanna get the
and
kids
consistent.
I just wanna get the kids that got on teams and got told they weren't, I wanna somehow vote on that tonight so they can go play at Springfield this year. That's what I wanna remedy tonight, but I agree, we 100% we as a board apparently have to define exactly what's gonna happen down there because it got out of scope.
Yeah,
And whether you as a board vote on that, or if you just give us direction of what you'd like to see happen, like I said, we will make happen whatever your desires are.
First of all, I'd like for the administration to make sure that all schools know you can't just start something up without talking to somebody else. You're not the king of your castle. You have someone else over you. And I don't know how much of this actually came, not necessarily to the board, but to your seat or to Dr. Weeks or to your seat when you was there. And I don't want to put you on the spot, but did anybody discuss with you any of this that you remember?
Not last fall. I
Okay.
have had conversations in the past, and I believe Mr. Rice is right. There was communication from Dr. Clausey outlining everything that was expected. I don't remember the specifics of that because I was not directly involved, but I do remember there was an email. I can say that everything that you're saying I agree with. We don't want kids to be hurt through this process. The biggest issue that I see is them completing their program as it's outlined. And then, because they're not going to get an athletic block
No, that's not
to
an option, yeah.
practice. So I don't know how, when you talk about the co-op, I don't know how they're going to manage completing their program at IA and playing a sport when they can't get to Springfield High for 4 o'clock. So we've got to be able to work that out.
And then, again, I really regret the way it's come out, but the effort back in February was to resolve the conflicts that had developed between the two and how it could be managed. It wasn't fair to tell some players that you couldn't go back, they already started, but it was also, since I wanted to go a different direction, if you got players who want to play, then it's up to you then to discuss and determine whether or not you can, you can't. But it just continued to be issues, and, I mean, like Dr. Wade said, we'll work as the board pleases, and we'll do whatever we need to do, but again, implement it as it is doesn't solve the problem, we still got to resolve the issues that we've got.
And I don't want to put something into place that's going to end in 4 years and you got the situation. That's not good. I almost like going back to the original agreement that was there, that you was talking about, Mr. Rice, and that we just have the sports that were discussed at the time of this venture. And, I mean, Mr. Sarles, Hume Fogg ain't never had a football team as far as I know, have they?
Again, my discussions have been to focus on what you have available, and what could be used. Boy Smith Field is there, let's use it. So football, if you've got enough to play, then football is a reasonable expectation. Soccer could be a reasonable expectation. Basketball, baseball, softball, probably not. But, you know, minor sports, I mean, nobody got a bowling alley at their school, but they have bowling teams, so you work those things out. So again, I'll be glad to follow whatever direction that you choose to give us, and we'll make that happen. But it should be about opportunities for students, and as we've already noted, I mean, Innovation Academy has some unique opportunities that other schools don't have. So we could focus there and make that go as well.
I'm just curious on this too. Where does the teams that they've got established, where do they play if they're single A? Where do they travel to?
Alabama, Cincinnati, they're playing Brentwood
This year,
Academy.
Cincinnati?
They're playing
This year,
Brentwood
they're
Academy.
not zoned into or placed in a region, so they have picked up an arbitrary schedule where they've worked with people to place that schedule. If they stay in 1A athletics, they will be scheduled with TWSAA to participate, and I assume our 1A schools around us,
Correct.
Joe Burns,
The redistricting.
yeah, the redistricting.
They'll be placed
They came in on an off year. If they came
Okay.
in next year, they would have been placed in a normal schedule. But they
Right.
came in an off year when TWSAA wasn't redistricting, so they.
Pick up who you can.
But
I
that'll change.
will add that they are responsive to the fact that we did say, if you're gonna do this, you're gonna do it through TWSAA sanctions. So that eliminated the independence that was
Okay.
created by the leagues that they were participating in. So it protects us the liability and everything else. So football, volleyball are through TWSAA.
Okay. Well, I guess what I'd like to see, what I'd personally like to see, whether it requires a vote or if it's just something that we direct Dr. Weeks and Mr. Sorrells to do, is I'd like to see the student athletes that, I know there was one on cross country, they tried out, got on Springfield teams, found out they couldn't be because of the co-op. I would like those kids to be able to play on those sports so they don't lose out. I'm not saying we're completely re-implementing what we were doing last year. I think we need to have it on the July agenda to figure out exactly what we're going to do with this, but I would like to see those kids restored at Springfield High School on those sports for this year.
We can certainly do that. I want to make sure this board also realizes that if we make changes to cooperative agreements, and we need to clearly communicate that to parents too.
Yes.
If we change, or if this board changes something, or TWSAA changes something, so if I go to Springfield High School this year and I participate in a sport, and let's say a cooperative agreement is no longer approved, that child may be ineligible, according to TWSAA, at some point future.
Not this season.
Not
You're
this
talking- yeah,
season,
yeah,
but
correct, yeah.
it could be next year. So
Yeah.
if I'm a student zoned to Greenbrier, but I've chosen to go to IA, and I go cooperate at Springfield High School and get a year of eligibility, if that cooperative program goes away and I go back to IA, I believe I would lose my eligibility for 1 year. So we would
To even
make sure.
play for IA. Or you gotta move. If you
Right.
have a change of address,
If you have a change of address, there are some exceptions, but in general, we need to make sure that's clearly communicated, and we'll probably send that letter out of our office so that
And so in July, could we try to get something together so we can vote on detailing, here's what will be offered at IA, here's what, and the rest is co-op? Is that,
I think we need to go find the original. I have an email from 2022 that was all parties, and it clearly says, IA will offer cross-country and bowling starting 2023, 24. We'll explore additional sports beginning 26 and 27. I got communication from 2022 to administration.
Yeah.
So
that's what we need to go.
we got to put it back in place. If it costs us something, it costs us something, but it's got to be made right.
Yeah.
Because these families went to school but under one set of rules,
Yeah.
and it got changed, it ain't right.
I agree.
So,
That's what I want to put back, and,
Yeah.
and we can do that. I think we've got that. So Dr. Weeks is going to take care of that. But I think if we detail it, and I agree with Mr. Sorrells that if IA has the facilities for a sport and they want to do that, I'm okay with that, but we can't, it feels to me like we're building out a full athletic program there right now, and it can't happen that way. It's not what.
Is there a down, depending on what we do, let's rewind, I guess, because that email says we would explore stuff 26, 27.
When the co-op.
There's nothing wrong, I guess, with it, back then, it's saying, okay, we expect the interest to be at this level. We will begin implementation of a football program in this year, so there's plenty of advance notice for everybody. Is that not the way we might ought to
Yeah.
have treaded here? If we were gonna go that route.
Yeah.
And again, I think that goes back to what is the purpose of IA? What does this board, what does the administration see as the vision for IA? Is it another high school or is it a specialized school? That's a question we have to answer.
Ms. Connie, yeah.
Well, I was just thinking, okay, like if you went to Nashville and you were at a magnet school, did they not co-op with somebody else? So, okay.
and they're not changing the rules every other year.
They-
It's consistent.
Oh.
What Hume Fog's
Don't
been
change
doing
the
has been
rules. I
doing
thought you
it.
said-
Hume Fog's
I
done
mean-
the same thing forever, as far as my knowledge.
There's
They're not-
several down there that do that.
That's personally why I'm thinking that most of the athletics needs to be at Springfield High School. I mean, that's the way it was designed, that's what, and if there is an issue going there, I'm prepared to work with Springfield High School on figuring out those issues. You know, how they're handling, I think they've been handling the athletic block issue though, pretty definitely right. If kids are playing football, that's one of the biggest uses of athletic block I've noted, is football teams.
I'm just still having a hard time figuring out how we got to this point without us knowing that we were at this point.
Yeah.
Good
Well,
question.
I'm very concerned about that.
I've got a question too about the athletic block. IA's not gonna have one, correct? So even if they're full go with a football program, they're still going a full day of school with no athletic block, even if they had a field.
Yeah.
So I mean, that.
Whether it's
that's
at
kind of-
IA
that's
or
kind of
Springfield, they don't get
A
athletic
moot
block.
point
Yeah.
to me.
Is there a way that could be worked with? Not taking anything out, but
Oh.
maybe some concessions by both schools to try to make this work for those kids.
Talking about facilitating an athletic block for some students or something?
Yeah. Before school work or something.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you know, if you want to play football bad enough, you'll go before school. I've seen kids live all summer in summer school just to get that. You've seen kids all summer live in summer school, with the coaches on their backs the entire time. Just, and so if the kid wants to play, he can play there. There's a way to make it work. This conversation should probably be with our administration and Dustin and whoever the athletic director is at the other school. But I'm with Connie. I'm at a loss to know how we got to where we were. When I found out they were going 11-man football was the night I received their schedule. That's when I found out about it. I don't, and to be honest with you, you might know Mr. Sauls, but I don't know if TSSAA will do a grandfather thing like that.
Well, again, that's a local decision that we made to
Right.
make sure that students that already started, that we didn't penalize them, so they could.
Right. But I don't, you know how
Again, it was
TSSAA is.
limited last spring, it was, for this winter, when we were counting up, there was a limited number of students, except for soccer. Soccer had several players there, but there was isolated, one player here, one player there on those teams. So, we were talking about a very limited number at that time.
We'll work on the communication and we'll make sure that goes through both sets of administrators, both athletic directors, and we'll get that out. And once we have that communication ready, we'll even put those on our website so that there is no question about what our expectations are.
It should be, and going forward, it should really be a document that parents and students have to sign when they enroll at IA, that, you know, they're aware this is how it's gonna work, you know, all that.
It does. It needs to be a part of that orientation
Yeah.
or that exploratory time there.
Yes, sir.
Have we made a decision of what we was gonna do, I guess is my question.
We didn't need a vote for it, but just right now, restoring the student athletes at Springfield High School that had tried out and then got cut because the co-op ended, where basically Dr. Weeks said they could take care of that, him and Mr. Soils. Yes, sir?
One question, what happens between tryouts that are between now, that haven't happened yet, but are before your June meeting?
For the 24-25 year, in my opinion, it would go forward like it has in past
We'll
years.
take care of those.
So IA kids can try out, even though y'all haven't made a final decision on other things. I mean,
Basically
Make a
we,
decision not to.
basically what we've said tonight is that what the status quo was for the co-op will go forward until we make a change. Now, July, we're gonna discuss it, but for now, we wanna restore those.
You were just, the way you put it was just the kids that had made the teams, it didn't account for the teams that haven't had tryouts.
Understand. Yeah, that's, I mean, in my opinion, we're basically going back to what we were doing last year because that's what parents and students thought we were doing for the 24-25 year, and that's what I want to uphold. But going forward, I don't think it's going to be that way forever. So,
Mr. Charles, if you or Mr. Weeks, one would send that out before it goes out to us all look over.
thank you. All right. Somehow that ended up worse than the budget. All right.
Yeah.
Do y'all have anything else? I know I've got some learning to do on this. Like, this is all kind of outside my wheelhouse. It's a lot of different working parties here.
I'll be out on the next board meeting the 10th, so.
That's why I said we'll do this in July.
We do need to have, I've asked Ms. Beverly to place on our agenda for our June meeting next couple of weeks. We do need to go into executive session to talk about a couple of legal issues that have come up. So plan on an extra 15 minutes after regular session ends.
Sam will be here for that one.
No, sir, it's just a couple updates we need to share with you.
All right. Are they new business or old business? I want to know if I heard
A
this
mix.
before.
Wait and find out.
What the hell is that?
It's the suspense.
I don't need that on me for 2 weeks. All right.
You don't have to stay
Please show up
awake
at your
every
house, you know it involves you.
All right, Dr. Weeks, we ready for comments by board members?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I think I'm good.
Understand. Ms. Connie?
I'm done.
All right. Josh?
Just one thing on the capital outlay projects we went over. I looked down that list, maybe just thank you to the county commission and everybody for working with us on those. I don't see, when you talk about the budget, we're called to be good stewards of the funds that we run on in a year. And I don't see a project on that list that is not desperately needed and in some cases overdue. So I'm glad we're moving forward on those and just appreciate the county commission working with us on that.
Thank you.
Great. Jeff?
Thank y'all for your answers to some questions tonight, because we hear different views, and I appreciate y'all's very honest and just straight out, here's what it is, and I appreciate that, the fact that I know it wasn't done quickly, and I know it wasn't thrown together in an hour. You can see that very well, so thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
I really don't have anything except just all of y'all that just always show up for everything. My goodness. Thank y'all for all y'all do.
I just want to reiterate, thank you to the board members for all y'all's diligence with the budget. Y'all always give great comments and good questions. And like I say, this is one of the best budget processes I've ever been through. Ms. Sheila, thank you for all your work. That is a gargantuan budget, and y'all manage it very well. And the projects we've got coming up, like Josh said, they're overdue. And I'm excited to see them done. I'm excited to see some the work at West Side especially. That's going to be an amazing campus we get done.
One more thing.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Charles, I don't know that all that was your fault, but thank you for stepping up, because nowadays we don't see people that step up and own it.
I appreciate your explanation.
I do. I really do. Thank you.
I'll take full responsibility, but I don't foresee it happening again.
That'll go.
There you go. Good deal. Well, that's all I got. Just thank y'all, and I'm glad for a good school year, and for those of y'all at graduations, that was, I don't know about y'all, that was some of the best speeches I've heard from our students. On the whole, we had great, valedictorian salute, the speeches, they were fantastic. Just a great crop of kids out there. Excited to see what they're gonna do. But if we have no other business come for the board, motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.